Hello there, my educator family and community, may I say. Let me welcome you to another Strategy Sunday. I trust you had an awesome week implementing or utilizing some of the strategies that were given to you as you seek to reintegrate students into the classroom. I trust that as we do this feature this month, that you'll be able to grasp something from it and be able to implement it in your classrooms, and so be able to see the effectiveness that it will have on our students, leading them to a positive change. Today we'll be looking at behavior management. So we know that classroom management and behavior management, they go hand in hand. When we look at behavior management, it has to do with strategies and systems that we will implement in our classroom to prevent students from becoming disruptive or to prevent them from not being able to positively contribute to the teaching learning environment and the classroom to which they are part of, which will affect eventually the learning outcomes and the teaching learning process. And therefore, when we look at behavior management, we want to extinguish what is it that the students are doing that disrupts the learning environment, and to instill that which is needed, the positivity that is needed to help them to grasp, to learn, and to do more in the classroom. And so there are two common approaches that are being utilized. And as educators, it is important for us that we take full charge, that we understand the context in which we operate, and that we understand how is it that we can go about utilizing and implementing these two approaches. The first one has to do with proactive strategies. Now, when we hear the term proactive, of course, we know that it is planning ahead of time. So you want to ensure that ahead of time, there are some systems that you have in place within your classroom that will prevent the learner or learners from becoming disruptive, that will encourage them towards doing the right things at all times. And so it is important that as educators, we are knowledgeable of the proactive approaches that we can utilize. Some of the more positive or the more proactive approaches that have been utilized over the years, and I do know that as educators, you will have systems in place, you will have ideas that you can reroute and utilize, that you yourself can make up. You realize that you're doing something and it works. You can continue to do so. Name it, place it in your portfolio as part of your guiding principles that you are utilizing to demonstrate your excellence in the classroom. And so proactive approaches could be behavior contracts. I know that in some schools, students are given a behavior contract ahead of starting the school year. And so they sign up, and not only do they sign up, their parents also sign up to say, yes, they will ensure that their child or children will act in accordance with. There's also a reward system that is in place. So in the primary school system or the kindergarten system, there are some teachers who have stars that they give to students for being neat, for being for observing the classroom protocols, raising hands, not getting up out of their seats, and so on. And that works wonders. There are some schools that they may be doing a student of the month or a student of the week, and a part of that rubric would be that the class is always organized, that students observe the protocols, that students are quiet, that they turn up on time, that they raise their hands. There's so many things that you can put into that approach to help them. It could also be proactively that the students know each time that you are through with a class, you would leave work for them for the next class. So for example, in the high school system, at the end of an English language class, you may give the students an assignment. The assignment, maybe you could say part of it is completed at home and the other part at school. So in the event that I don't turn up early for class, this is what you should be working on, your on-task activities, right? Those are proactive ways that you can use to help students to understand that they can take charge of the teaching learning environment and they don't need to be disruptive. So ahead of time, you're being proactive. There are some schools, and maybe generally all schools, that they have class monitors and so on, These persons can be utilized as well to ensure that the students stay on task and that they are prepared for the lesson ahead. So after we have looked at the proactive approach, then we also have the reactive approach. And this is where you are now creating and reinforcing consequences for the undesired behavior. So the students are not acting in accordance with the proactive approaches that you have in place. So you must have a reactive approach that is being utilized. May I hasten to say though that the reactive approach should never be something that you just do because you want to get back at the students. So you become emotional in what you do. The reactive approach should be clearly outlined to the students. This is what will happen if, when I turn up to class, this is what is happening. You're not following, you're not doing. So they know exactly, just as how they know what the rewards will be in the proactive approach, they need to know what the consequences will be in the reactive approach. When you do that and you set the pace, then students will clearly follow what is it that is established. They know what definitely will happen. Of course, there are going to be moments or times in which you may have realized that this reactive approach that I have outlined, I've tried it 2 times, 3 times, it is not working. And so, yes, you may have to just think outside the box immediately to stem an undesired behavior. That's fine, but it should not be that consistently you are being emotional in what you do. You're overreacting or you're losing your temper, and the students are realizing that they're getting on top of your nerves. That sets a bad precedence, and they will keep doing it because they know that is how you're going to react. Remember, you are the professional in the classroom and you are in charge of the teaching learning environment. Never forget that. So you always stay and stand your cool and let the students realize that I am organized, I am planning, I know exactly what needs to be done. So as I said earlier, in the reactive approach, these are consequences. This is what will happen if it is that you have not been doing what is expected of you. And of course, we go to punishments. Maybe you give them lines, and sometimes these lines may not work, so you may have to do something else. Maybe the task for the entire week is to clean the board. Maybe the task is to take the textbooks to the classroom. Maybe the task is to organize the handouts and have them ready on the table for students to come and to pick up. Maybe the task would be for them to monitor a lunch line, or they should be going to the library and reading a particular textbook during their lunchtime, half of their lunchtime, and doing their report. When we do the consequence approach, whatever it is that we give the students to do, they must be learning from it. They must be learning from it, because usually when they do not follow protocols, it is because they are just being disruptive. Now, do you punish them negatively or do you punish them positively? It could also be a case in point that for every work that they submit hereafter for the next 2 weeks, a point is taken off or 2 points is taken off. Something that you know it's going to affect them, and so they don't want it to happen. They know that they will have to give up their lunchtime to read for half an hour out of the hour that they have, and they have to produce a report at the end of the day or at the end of the week. They may not want to do that. So, but whatever they do, they should be learning from it. Educators, these are simple steps that we can take as we reintegrate students into the classroom. Remember that these are students who would have been out since March 2020. Out of the system. For some of them, they have never been engaged any at all. They don't have the devices to get on to Google Classroom, nor to access WhatsApp. It has been challenging for them. For some students, they would have taken on adult roles. So they work part-time and then they go into Google Classroom when they're not working. So many things have happened to them. So when they come back to the classroom, they may be coming back as an adult, someone who was never under supervision or effective supervision. They may have gotten into company, older, doing moving around with adults and older children, and so they may take on some of these characteristics. They have been out of the physical space. So as educators, you will have to remind them of what is it that is expected when they get into the physical space. How can you stem what is happening? And remember, the aim of all of this is to bridge the gap, the learning gap that has been eroding for quite a while. So whatever you do, as we look at behavior management, the proactive approach, the reactive approach, we have to ensure that what we're doing, the students will learn from it. It will help them to increase their knowledge base, and it will also stem the undesired behavior or propel the positive behavior that you need them to have. I trust that this information presented to you today will be of benefit. Please remember to like, share, subscribe. Do not be afraid to place your comments in the comment section. It is really appreciated. And I trust that as you go through this week, you will be able to think on these things as you make a positive impact and as you ensure that the future of our country, of our world, they are learning and grasping. God bless you all. Have a great week.